Okay, just waiting for this to load. So first, like I said, my name is John Franco, and I've been in the district now for 8 years. I was formerly the principal at Westview High School and now serve as the executive administrator for high schools and options. And this is my 4th year in this position. And so I just wanted to go ahead and state this. One of the great things about BSD is that we do have learning options, not only learning options schools, but learning option programs. And those school/programs do start at 6th grade. And so obviously we're going to focus specifically on middle school options available. But just wanted to go ahead. I think it's important to note that we're very excited about the innovation, and we've been nationally recognized not only for the for high student achievement and the innovation within BSD, but we're very proud that in grade 6-12 that we do have these learning option programs available. So the option schools in particular that serve 6-12 are these, and that's Arts and Communication Magnet Academy, better known as ACMA. We have the Beaverton Academy of Science and Engineering, and that's BASE, and that's formerly SST and HS2, and we've now merged them into one school. And so we're very excited about that. And then we also have the International School of Beaverton serving 6-12, and short is ISB, or ISB for short. We also have K-8 option programs / schools. However, we are phasing these out. And so I'm just really kind of stating this to you, just kind of as a FYI. Aloha Huber Park is no longer moving forward, is not going to be an option for the 6 through 8. But I just wanted to make sure I cleared that up. Rachel Carson is 6 through 8. Rachel Carson is housed over at Cedar Park. It used to be housed at Five Oaks Middle School. The program in itself is now housed at Cedar Park, and that is currently still an option, 6th through 8th grade. Both Raleigh Hills and Springville, they're going to be transitioning specifically now or strictly to elementaries. And so this is really the last year where we're going to use it as an option, and it will be only for 8th grade. Okay, so again, we're obviously talking about elementary students here, so I do not think any of that will apply to any of the Fir Grove students. So I just wanted to call your attention. What's great about, and we are still, since we do have some open houses virtually coming up and those types of things, not everything is up to date on the website, but again, we're pretty close. But I do want to call your attention to the website just because I think it's important that you know where you can get this information. And so if you navigate to, again, if you go to Google and just type in Beaverton School District, and what you'll do is you'll actually go to, and you can just type in the search learning options, and then you'll navigate here to this page. And it goes into some very specific, some small descriptors of each program in particular. And you can kind of see exactly what the requirements will be. And you could see for all our schools, in terms of option schools, they do require an application. But if you want to learn more about, just again, just a quick snapshot, you can go ahead and click under the Learn More tab, and it can give you an idea. And again, obviously it's just a quick snapshot. I would always recommend you actually navigate to the website, to the school's website, where you can learn much more about the programs in particular. But you can see here's ACMA, here's BASE. You could see ISB here, and then of course Rachel Carson. And those really are the 4 that are going to be applicable to your outgoing 5th graders. Okay, and again, it gives you an idea in terms of timelines a little bit, and we'll navigate a little bit more to a few more pages, but just want to give you a heads up on that. Again, like I said, in the BSD webpage, the learning options site. Okay, so if we move forward, I just want to present this timeline in terms of application window. So you can first see here, again, this is just, again, this is all on the Beaverton School District webpage under Learning Options applications. So we take two modes of application. There's the online, we also have the paper application. Just like last time, you can also see, just like with what happened before, what I showed you before, you can see small descriptions of each one. Pay no attention to Aloha part. That is, again, like I said, is not going to be an option moving forward, but you do have ACMA, you have BASE, you have ISB here, and then of course, Rachel Carson, which is the Program of Environmental Science. I want you to, if you scroll down further, you can see the application deadlines and important dates. And this is important. And like I said before, this meeting is actually quite timely because as you can see, starting Monday, October 18th is when the lottery window is open, or the application window is open. So I just want to call your attention just to a few important dates here. Like I mentioned, Monday, October 18th. That's when the window opens. Here, Friday, December 10th is when lottery applications are due. So if you're interested in applying, you would just go ahead and go up to the very top again, and you could find the online application and the paper application, and both are in English and Spanish. Friday, December 10th, lottery applications due, must be received by 4 o'clock. And we are pretty stringent about those timelines just because, you know, what happens is it's such a streamlined process, and based on the number of students that we get, and there always is a number of students, and sort of generally is always a wait list, but you know, that allows us to project staffing and to allot the appropriate number of teachers as well. Wednesday, December 15th, we run the lottery. Results will not be given over the phone, as generally is over email. And you could see here on Thursday, December 16th is when we'll go ahead and do the email notifications, which will include an offer of enrollment or wait pool status. So if you don't get in via the lottery, there's an option to go ahead and go on the wait pool. And then also, because what happens within our schools, they have a certain percentage which they allot for lottery, and then they have a certain percentage which they allot for second consideration. And the second consideration is another application per se, you know, where the kids would talk a little bit more about themselves, why they're interested in attending the school. And then Monday, January 10th is when the second considered applications are due to schools. And then Wednesday, February 2nd, that is when we would look for a deadline for acceptance of enrollment. I do want to just real quickly, and I did mention this before, but if you really want to learn more about what each school, what their program actually entails, and if that little snapshot isn't enough, I do absolutely suggest that you go to each school's website, because on the website, you'll actually find the program planning guide. And it's actually very interesting for you to see. So for example, if I were to go to BASE, and you can just Google it, or you can find it on our district website, you can navigate to their academic planning guide. And I'm just going to roll through this just kind of as an example. So BASE is in here in the middle school. It's what we deem as a project lead the way school. It is also an expeditionary learning school. And you could, just by reading through, you can see kind of the neat classes. So if your student is heavy into the sciences, this, you know, BASE is an outstanding opportunity. And so you could see one of the things that I think is really neat about BASE is that it allows, especially for incoming 6th graders and 7th graders as well, is there is a 9-week rotation of classes centered around the sciences and engineering. So it gives students an opportunity where they don't necessarily, they may come in with the interest, but because of the wheel per se, they can learn about a lot of different things. And of course, we all know that kids, they've kind of formed their path or pathway as they get to experience new topics, and that's what BASE does. And so that is exciting. And so if I were to just kind of scroll through, you could, just by reading it, right? And just by seeing this, you could see some of the topics here. So for example, here in 6th grade, green architecture, design and modeling, science and enrichment. If you move forward, you have things, topics like automation and robotics, medical detectives. And then if you go along to 8th grade, you see, well, here's one, infection detection. I mean, when you just read those, right, you can't help but be like, oh my gosh, that's kind of a neat deal. And then as long as you scroll through, you can also see, I mean, obviously in every school, you have to have math, you have to have language arts, you have to have social studies, you have PE, obviously a number of electives that I just described. So I would encourage you to go to BASE if you're interested. The same thing if you wanted ACMA, you can go to their program planning guide or their website, and you could see via ACMA various electives that they offer as well. Obviously, ACMA is it's arts and communication, right? And ACMA just opened a new building. It's beautiful. One of the top drama productions or companies in the state. It's so much talent at ACMA. And again, so it's not just specifically arts, but at the same time, the expectations in regards to core academics are evident in every school. And then just real quick, just to highlight IB or ISB. So ISB is, as a 6th grader, actually 6th through 10th, they'll be part of the middle years program. And then junior year, they'll be put on a path for the IB diploma. And so the middle years program, again, if you were to just look, so IB in general, here are some specific qualities. So if you think about the IB diploma, so we have other IB schools like a Southridge and a Mountainside and a Sunset. So these qualities is what IB strives for. Inquirer, knowledgeable thinker, be a communicator, principled, open-minded, caring, risk-taker, balanced, reflective. Those are all things as soon as the kids enter from 6th grade, that they talk about and teach. And the great thing about ISB and the middle years program is that the middle years program, that's what happens is that they help put you on a path. So when it comes time to their junior year, if they continue at ISB, to potentially pursue the IB diploma. And 100% of the students pretty close to pursue the IB diploma if they start from 6th grade all the way through graduation there at ISB. And that's very, very impressive. And so when you're thinking about a school like an ISB or any other school, whether it be AP school advanced placement or international baccalaureate school like the ISB, so what happens is students take classes, IB classes or AP classes, and they potentially then can take tests or take assessments for college credit. And so I'll give you a perfect example. My daughter was a graduate full IB diploma over at Mountainside High School, and she graduated with 65 college credits. And so she actually entered U of O as a sophomore. And so that, when you're talking about kind of paving the path towards post-secondary, all of our schools provide unique opportunities. And then there's Rachel Carson. I don't have them pinged up on here, but if you go to the Cedar Park website, you can find Rachel Carson there, and it's a School of Environmental Science, or actually it's a program. It's actually at Cedar Park Middle School, but it's a program of environmental science. And so if there is a want or if your son or your daughter has an interest in environmental science, Rachel Carson is a unique opportunity. They do a lot of field trips as well. And the staff there has been together for a long time. It's a staff of six teachers, and they've been together for a long time. So they know the system, and everyone who's been associated with Rachel Carson loves it, absolutely loves it. And so that's it for me. That was a lot of information. I don't know if it was enough information, but I'm absolutely happy to take any questions. I'm just going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And so I'll be happy to take any questions.
Great, thanks, John. I forgot to mention that not only Fir Grove families are here, but the invitation got sent out. I believe we have families from Chehalem and possibly also Bowes here as well. So trying to save your time by sharing more information with as many people as possible. We did have a chat question asking that Aloha Huber was going to be a Spanish-English dual language middle school. Is that true?
Correct. That's correct. Yes.
That is going to
be? Well, it is, but that's so one of the reasons we're moving away from it being an option school is that we have kids who have entered through elementary, and the option piece was only for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And so it didn't make much sense when you have kids who enrolled as a dual language school, and then they have to basically apply to get in and lotteried in. And so we wanted that to continue 6 and 8. So yes, that is correct.
So does that mean that that's only available to Aloha Hooper Park elementary students, or is that going to be available to other people in the district? Yeah, no, it's no longer an option school. So it is within that community. Oh, okay. So if you started there, you could continue, but you can't come there from somewhere else.
Correct.
All right. Next question we have, how many kids get into each option school by lottery and second consideration?
Yeah, so that does vary. It really just depends on the school. It generally is around 60-40 in terms of percentages. I couldn't give you an exact number in terms of a certain percentage is lottery, and then schools save a certain percentage for second consideration.
And do you know, like a rough estimate, like for example, how many 6th graders are selected for ACMA?
You know, I could pull that up. You give me a little bit. I think I have a chart I could show you. Why don't we go on to the next question?
We'll keep going through questions. Does the district provide transportation?
Yes.
And I've heard that is not necessarily directly from your home, but sometimes to a school, and then a different, you wouldn't necessarily get your bus from your neighborhood straight to ACMA, but you might have to route through.
You're a good mentor, you know it, and that is true. There generally are what we call transfer locations. When I was at Westview, we were a transfer site, and so students would get picked up and dropped off, obviously close to potentially there, but then they would have to possibly go to a transfer site and then transfer to another bus. That's kind of how it would work a little bit, but it works, and we've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. So transportation provided, but potentially a longer bus ride than otherwise.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
All right. Do you try to get equal representation for all the elementary schools that apply?
That's a great question. What we try to do, not necessarily elementaries, but we want to make sure that demographics are representative of Beaverton. I think that's an important piece there. Obviously, we want to, I mean, when you're talking about lottery, right, you're kind of, I wouldn't say hamstrung, but the pool is extremely important. So if you have a pool that's evenly dispersed across elementaries then from a lottery perspective, you'll be more apt to have it be equally divided amongst the schools. But that's where the second consideration piece does come into play. I think that allows opportunities for schools to just take a look at, okay, what is the applicant pool? What are we missing? Is there anything overarchingly missing from a student perspective, and then to proceed accordingly? And so, but like I mean, this is why we do things like this, because we definitely have more applications, I would say, from certain schools. We love to get more applications from others. But we have what, 39 elementary schools in the district, so not we don't see as much from as many as I would like to. I should say it that way.
All right, we had a comment that second consideration at base had 614 applications last year. And someone's older student goes there and connects through via ISB for their transportation.
Mm.
Can a student submit applications to more than one school?
No, they can't. It's one option school. That's been a rule in existence for a long time.
Are the start times the same as other middle schools?
No, the option schools start at 7:30, but they end at 2:05. So it's definitely earlier start. And if you're riding the bus, it's early. It really is early. So if you're a early morning person, it's great. If you're not, it's definitely something you're gonna have to get used to. But yeah, it definitely starts a little earlier.
And do any of the option programs have any kind of after school space for students to stay at?
Yes, they all do. They all do.
They all do. Great.
Yep, they all do. And I would say too, I mean, they're schools, and so clubs, maybe not as vast as the comprehensive schools, but you know, they're schools, and so you know, there's a ton of activities. You know, all of the the schools have leadership. All the schools have after school clubs, and so that's important. And so I think it depends in terms of what your interests are. What I've known from all the principals is that if you have a true interest in something, there's really nothing that they would say, oh my gosh, no, we're absolutely not doing that. But we want to see more and more involvement in after school activities.
Do the option schools follow the common middle school schedule?
No, they do not. So option schools, again, that's the thing with the option schools, they're 612. And so, you know, the periods are a little bit different, but they don't follow the common middle school schedule.
All right, well, that's all the questions I have so far. If anybody else wants to add questions to the chat or, you know, unmute and speak out. Is SUMA an option school? If a student qualifies for SUMA, can they still apply to an option school?
That's a great question. And SUMA, we do consider that as an option school. So just like with what I said, you can only apply to one. And so if you're SUMA, you can ultimately decide if you want to do the SUMA program or do an option school. We do not have SUMA at any of the options.
It's one or the other.
Yep, one or the other.
Sounds good. All right. I don't know if anybody else has questions. I'll hang out for a minute in case we got somebody still typing.
I have one more question.
Sure.
You get in in 6th grade, are you automatically enrolled through 12th grade, for example?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you're in. And we would love to see, and it's also, I want to make sure I mention this. Sometimes kids just go in for middle school and then they transition to their home high school. And so it is a goal though for the schools, for kids who do enter in middle school to go ahead and continue through high school. And I'll say this too, is that if you, you know, if you're in an option school, and say you play baseball or football or softball or basketball, you would participate in those sports at your home high school.
Then we have another question. Can you apply for option school in 7th grade? Like if you didn't get the one you wanted in 6th, could you try again?
Yep, you can try every year.
And I suppose that also means that, well, if you have the goal of continuing all the way through, you could do one option school for middle school and apply to a different option school for high school.
You could, you absolutely could.
Would be kind of
I would
odd.
say, yeah, it would be kind of odd. We generally don't see that. And I would say that, you know, once you're there, I mean, the students obviously want an option school for a particular interest. But you can do that. But we've seen more kids stay because they've really enjoyed it.
It makes more sense.
Yeah.
Are the option schools having open house Zooms?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So I gave them a deadline. They're going to send me videos that I can upload to the website by October 14th. So I would expect that weekend you can go on and take a look. And so they will actually have videos that you can go ahead and take a look. Some of the schools are also going to have virtual open houses, and nothing's going to be in person. But they will have, I would say that weekend of October 15th is to go ahead and check the website. And then of course I would always say, whether it be the counselors, the receptionists, or the office assistants, or even the principals themselves are extremely receptive and open to any level of questions. So feel free to email, or even myself, like if there's a question that you have even after this, I'll be happy to give you my email and you can email me directly.
Next question, do siblings get special consideration in the second consideration process?
They don't. There isn't a legacy component there. ISB does do a little bit with that, but that's not echoed across. In full transparency, we're trying to get to a place where we have some semblance of consistency in terms of second consideration. We're not there yet, but that is definitely a goal moving forward.
Do you have many kids that decide to leave the option school after a year and return to their home middle school?
Not many, I'll be honest with you. The one thing about the options is that they're a little bit smaller. Obviously, it peaks on an area of interest, and so, and they're hard. The reality is they're very highly sought after, and so I wouldn't say it doesn't happen, but it's very infrequent. I would say what we get more of is we get more kids who transition out after 8th grade to attend their comprehensive high school, but you generally don't have students who leave after 1 year.
If a student has been in a dual immersion since kinder and goes to ACMA, for example, can they continue back in dual immersion if they were to return to their home school?
That's a great question. Offhand, I'd have to ask that question, but I would say yes, because that just seems like a common sense thing. But that's something I don't want to give you an answer that's incorrect. So I'll write that down, and I'll be happy to follow that up, and I can send you into my answer to that question.
And then we had a return question about if you found the numbers for what percentage of how many applications, how many people get in. I know it's hard to look stuff up while you're answering questions.
I know, but that's why I like it. Keep asking those questions. I'll see if I can find it.
And then we've got a question that if you were selected for SUMA, that you could still apply for an option, and if you didn't get your option, you could still accept.
You could. Yes, you could. You could do that.
So you don't have to decline that first to apply for an option school.
Right. Let me see. I can. Okay, so just for I don't have all the numbers up, but I'll give you an example. Currently at ISB, there are 180 sixth graders.
Do you have any guess of how many people applied to 6th grade for ISB?
That's a good question. I don't. I would say it's generally what you see is generally a quarter of what the applications are.
So it's a pretty sought after. There's not a lot of spots for how many people are interested.
Yeah, it is. But I'll also say too, there's also an opportunity to be on the wait list. But yes, it is. They are highly sought after.
Just because just because the chance is low doesn't mean you shouldn't apply.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's of course, absolutely not.
All right, next question. Can you apply if you're in special ed or ESL programs?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. We have a question to clarify the lottery process and wondering if Title I schools are equally represented in lottery selection.
So that's a great question. And like I said, the lottery, because it's not just lottery and it's second consideration. That's where that piece comes into play about representation of the school district population. And if you actually take a look at the demographics, I would say the schools have to look at what their pool is, right? And so there's definitely an outreach component. So if we're missing kids, if we don't feel like the applicant pool is reflective of the demographics of BSD, I think that's on us, or that's on the school, to make sure that the net is cast wider by doing more of these level of types of meetings. But say if at first blush through lottery, you still would like to see more of something else, or it's not enough representation, that's where that second consideration piece does come into play. I think that's an important piece of what our schools do, because they're very cognizant. And that's definitely one thing that I'm very cognizant about, is making sure that our schools are reflective. And somebody mentioned about special education students in ESL, and that's why it's so important that we have everyone apply who's interested. If you have a level of interest, please put your name in, or go to an open house, ask a lot of questions. That's what we want.
So my understanding there is that in the initial lottery, it's a true lottery. No factor.
It's a true lottery. It's not a weighted. Yes, it's not a weighted.
And then that second consideration process is when things like rounding out your diversity would be part of the.
When you would look at, correct, when you would look at some other things in terms of what came through in that initial lottery.
We have a question. How well do applicants to option schools represent overall Beaverton demographics? And if not, what barriers do you think exist that are causing that? Are there ways that we as a community can help with that?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say some are probably better than others. If you think, I think we're doing much better. So if you were to just think of like the stereotypical piece, and unfortunately that stereotype is there, that say, for example, females don't like math and science. And so we want to make sure that we break that and make sure that we build up the applicant pool, or make BASE as extremely exciting to all students, especially our female students, right? We want to make sure that happens. And so we have to make sure we start with a robust pool. And if we don't have a robust pool, you can't help but say to yourself, well, why is that? What are we doing in our outreach efforts? What are we doing in our communication efforts? And I would say that we're not there yet in terms of how could I say it, of getting to the point where every school is truly reflective of the demographics. I would say the same can be true for ACMA as well. We need to do a better job of outreach and those particular types of things, so that we can make sure our pool is more robust. But I would have to say that it's no fault of effort. I think our principals are doing a really good job. And I would say, what can you do as a community is, like one of the things you're doing is just right now. What I loved is that this is not just a presentation for Fir Grove, but I heard Bose and Chehalem. I've been to a few presentations like this. I would say probably we need to have more of them, as a district. And sometimes the presentations are based upon the want of a PTO like this, right? And so we just got to do more from that piece, from an outreach perspective.
Well, I'll say for myself, as that I had initiated having you come the first time a couple of years ago when I was the president, and that stemmed from my perception that there might have been a lack of awareness in our school community of the fact that option programs were even a thing. And I thought, well, I want to make sure that our families have the opportunity to know that and learn about it so that they can be applying, because if they don't even know it exists, they're definitely not applying.
Right. Right. I agree.
Can I jump in on that real quick as the counselor at Fir Grove? I do get in and do presentations to all of our fifth graders. I've got it scheduled for next Monday and Tuesday for our fifth grade classes. And most, if not all, elementary counselors do similar presentations to their fifth graders across the district, because we know not all of those kids have parents who are coming to presentations like this or would otherwise have an opportunity to learn about the program. So it's wonderful to see all of you here, but know that your kids will be getting a kid-focused presentation as well, as we encourage them to think about what schools would be a good fit for them and kind of explain a lot of the logistics that were covered tonight too.
Thanks, Ms. Carl. We had one more question on, is there anywhere that we can access the data from past application lottery results of how many applications?
No, we don't share that. That's just not something that's public that the school shares. You're more than welcome to inquire with the school, but I don't think that is something that they make public. I do think though that they, maybe not necessarily numbers, but they're pretty open about talking about, like I said, certain percentages of lottery, certain percentage, second consideration.
So it's not something
I know that I know that is a tough question that a lot of families reasonably ask. It's just hard right now to be able to say like this is what the number is going to be. So, but I would encourage you to just ask that question of your schools. But I don't communicate that piece. What I do is, we run the lottery, so they're not doing it on their own. So we run the lottery centrally. And so they tell us the number of slots from a staffing perspective that they can do. And then we run it. And then from that, we create the list and we give them the list. And then they tell us, okay, well, maybe somebody dropped or somebody didn't accept. And so from that, so everyone who applies, we run the lottery, and then everyone is given a number. And so once the lottery's run, the lottery's run. And so if they take 180 and you're 181, then you're 181. And so if somebody drops, then you are next in line. That's kind of how it works.
Great. And then it sounds like, it looks like the Chehalem fifth graders will get their presentation within the next couple of weeks as well, with info going home on Parent Square, so that families there will know about it too.
That's great.
We've got a question. What is the district doing specifically to broaden the net to better have option schools represent student body? I'm assuming.
Yeah, so that was things like this, extremely important. There's also going to be a whole district-wide communique that's going to come out right when the window opens, and it's going to point families. That's going to be specifically to elementary families, but it's going to point them to the website. So everything that I just showed you, it's going to go out in 9 different languages. I think that's an initial piece. And then also like I said, every school is going to have either a virtual open house or going to have videos that people can navigate to, which are going to be extremely important as well.
That's great. All right, I don't have any other questions at this moment, unless somebody else wants to add anything. Really appreciate you coming and talking with us.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to. If you, my email is John Jon. I should have written it down. I can actually put it in the chat. But feel free to email me directly. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. If you, for whatever reason, can't get a hold of the principal, please don't hesitate to email. I'm actually pretty good on email. So anyways, really, here it is right here. That's my email address. Feel free to use it at any point in time. I just want to say thank you so much. Really enjoyed this time. And Minta, if there's any other questions or if there's more confusion, which has a tendency to happen after I present, then go ahead and email me again. I'll be happy to come on again.
Sounds good. And I'm sure we'll look forward to roping you into doing this again next fall.
Absolutely. I'm down. Thank you so much. I just want to say
Maybe we'll see if we can get even more schools to join. So we'll just knock it out in one go.
That's a great, you know what? You may be on something here, Minta. We may just have all 39
Yeah,
elementary
just
schools.
send out the invitation to everybody. Although I don't know if my
Yeah.
PTO Zoom account can handle the number of people you might get for that.
Well, you know what? Doesn't matter because you're going to have the new PTO president. You know, she's going to be the
Yeah,
one.
she'll have to deal with that. I'm just gonna take that down the road.
Well, I just want to say real quick, thank you to the staff too. I know we have teachers and some counselors here. And I just want to say you guys are rock stars. I totally know what's happening with what's going on with you. And so I just want to express appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, John. And thanks everyone
Okay.
for coming. And if that's all the questions, then we're just going to go ahead and wrap it up, and everyone have a good night. Certainly reach out if you have questions.
Thank you.